The bigger, much more interesting question he had was, why? And this is where his work goes from just observing customs to trying to actually dissect the feeling of shame itself.
So, what Ellis concluded was that modesty isn't one single pure thing. It's not some virtue handed down from the heavens. He called it an agglomeration, which is just a fancy word for a messy, complicated bundle of different and sometimes even contradictory impulses, all tangled up together.
He believed this bundle had a few key ingredients. First, a basic fear of disgust. An aversion to our body's other functions, which just happen to be anatomically right next to our sexual organs. Then you've got something he called primitive coquetry. Think of it like an instinctual playing hard to get that you see all over the animal kingdom. It's that retreat or concealment that isn't really about rejection, but it's actually part of the dance of attraction. And finally, you have clothing itself, which plays this incredible double game of both hiding us and drawing attention to exactly what's being hidden. So, what in the world does this 120-year-old study mean for us right here, right now? Well, it kind of makes you wonder how these shifting sands of shame have shaped our own world, maybe in ways we don't even realize. Well, let's take a look at something as simple as a piece of clothing: women's underwear. In the mid-1800s, an English doctor had to literally argue for women to wear them, but he noted that most people considered them masculine and therefore immodest. But just a few decades later, they became an absolutely essential part of a modest woman's wardrobe. The very same item went from being shameful to being a requirement of shame, and that's the ultimate point. What Havelock Ellis does is he pulls back the curtain. He shows us that these feelings of shame and modesty that we assume are so natural, so instinctive, are actually, in large part, cultural scripts. They're scripts that we learn and that we perform. They feel incredibly real to us, for sure, but they are not universal, timeless truths. And that leaves us with a fascinating and maybe a little unsettling final thought. If our deepest convictions about something as fundamental as shame and decency are really just a story that we've all collectively agreed to tell, then what else is? What other parts of our so-called human nature are just stories we've been told?